Let's see what's the difference between var, let, and const in JavaScript. There are two main areas where they act differently. First is how we can define and redefine them and assign and reassign the values. And second is how they respect the local scope. So first, let's start with defining several variables. Var my name, let my cat, const alphabet, and const numbers. Right? So the values for my name, my cat, and alphabet, they are strings. The value for numbers is an array of numbers. So what will happen if we will try to redeclare them again? If I will try to redefine my name, then we see no complaints, and we can check what's the current value of my name, and it would be Rob, right? So if we're using var, then we can declare it, and then we can declare it again with the same name in the same scope, and JavaScript will just take it without any problems, and the new value for this my name would be taken. So now my name has value Rob. Then if I will try to do the same for let, JavaScript will complain. Once defined, let cannot be declared again. So if we already used my cat for let, then we cannot do let my cat again. It will not work. We will have an error that identifier with this name has already been declared. If we will try to do the same for const, we will have the same error. So let and const can only be declared once. Then we cannot declare them again with the same name. That's one difference. Another difference is that how we can reassign the values for variables which are already defined. So if it's var, then we have no problem. We can reassign a new value to a var. If it's let my cat, also no problem. But if it's const, we cannot do that. Assignment to constant variable is not allowed in JavaScript. So as soon as we declare it const with some value, then we cannot reassign new value to this const. But bear in mind that if the value of const is not literal value such as string or number, but it's a more complex data structure like object or array, then we can change the content of this array or object without any problems. Like here, we will push number 4 into our array numbers, and it will work just fine. JavaScript will not complain at all. Right? So now we can see that our numbers has 1, 2, 3, 4, not just 1, 2, 3 as it was initially. So to sum it up, var can be defined and redefined. The value could be assigned and reassigned. Let could be defined once, but then we cannot define it again with the same name. But we can assign and reassign value, no problem. And const is constant. As soon as it's defined, that's it. We cannot define it again, and we cannot reassign the value directly, but we can change the content of data which holds our const without any problems. Then another difference between them is how they treat local scope. So if I will declare a new function, and we will create a function scope. The function is called greetUser. Inside this function, we will redefine again all of these 3 variables. Everything, var, let, and const. So as you can see, we don't have any problems here. We can execute this function. JavaScript is not complaining, right? Because with functions, all of them, var, let, and const, they respect function scope. So we can use the same names and we can declare them again, but they will belong to this function only. It will not be the same variables as in global scope. In global scope, we have them separately. In function scope, we have them right inside this local scope, which is created by a function. If I will check the values of our variables defined here, then we will see that they're still the same. My cat is still hair, alphabet is still ABCD, my name is still George, right? So here, none of them overwritten our global variables, because all of them, they respect the function scope. With this, inside the function, all these 3 variables, they will have the values we assigned inside the function scope. Like my name is Rob, coming from this function, and my cat would be fluff coming from this function, and alphabet would be zyx, because here all of them just belong to this local scope of this function. But then if I will try to use logical scope, which is not the function scope, logical scope is just created by any set of curly brackets, so it could be inside the condition, inside the loop, and in this case the difference would be obvious. Var doesn't respect logical scope, so in this case then we say var my name equals rope. It actually assigns rope to our global variable my name. We can see that now this my name from global scope is not George anymore, now it's rope. And my cat and alphabet, they stay the same, because let and const, they respect perfectly the logical scope. And that's another big difference between two of them. We can see that inside our condition we have these two variables my cat and alphabet, one is let, one is const, and they just sit inside this local scope. They do not override our global variables, and var is overriding it. So what I wanted to show is that you probably heard a lot of hype that var is bad, do not use var. Nothing is bad in any programming language. There are just some parts which could be trickier initially, but if we know exactly how they work, then we can just use them properly, and we're not going to experience any weirdness or anything like that.